Welcome to How the Blank by What the Blank Entertainment, and this is How the Children's Theater. So, welcome to How the Blank, guys. This is How the Children's Theater. We wanted to go over just how children's theater has kind of affected the entertainment industry and also how it has affected this company and kind of why we're doing the Kim Project and kind of promoting the Kim Project through this and going over like what we'd learn and all the fun stuff about the Kim Project. So, let's start with what is children's theater, right? Children's
theater for children.
Yeah.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
Anyone under the age of 18, right, doing theater, whether it is by a nonprofit, a for-profit, right? What's funny is children's theater, like, can be done by all these things, while usually, like, nonprofits and other stuff only can do so many things, right? Children's theater has kind of expanded where, like, educational does it and all this other stuff, like, and even for-profit businesses like us, right, do it, right? And it's because children's theater is so impactful, right? It's something that changes someone to like reach their dreams and act out and become someone new that they've never been before. And that's what I love about children's theater. And it's been going for so long, like so long. But it kind of got standardized about 1930s-ish, 1940s, but it got super popular in the 80s. Like the 1980s, children's theater was huge. They wrote like tons and tons of shows, like the Ice Wolf. Like, do you remember that one in our children's theater class? The princess. Oh, what was
Princess and the Pea?
Yeah, Princess and the Pea one. There's a lot of just incredible children's theater. Peter Pan had so many revivals through children's theater. Like, Peter and the Starcatcher, actually, I think it started as, like, a children's theater thing that they eventually took to Broadway and became for adults more. And it was so cool. I love children's theater. Like, it is one of my favorite things. I've done theater since I was 6 months old, right? So I've been in children's theater for a long time.
Your whole life.
Yeah, my whole life has been children's theater. Like, and it's really impacted me. It's helped me learn and grow and become better, you know? And one thing that I love about children's theater is that it gives opportunities for kids to do something different. You know, something that is kind of frowned upon by society in a way. Because theater is kind of something that, we'll support children in it, but adults, depends on, like, you're not thought of a real job. But they'll, like, pour money into children's theater because they know the principles of it help you live good lives, you know?
It really helps develop your creativity. Gives you emotional support throughout, all the things you can do. Children's theater really is like the playground where children can explore to be themselves.
Yeah. And one thing that I've noticed with children's theater, it's kind of gotten to a point where it's like memorize, play, get to these standards. You got to fit these things. You got to do it at the right time, right? And it's kind of lost its playfulness lately.
Yeah.
And so
sad.
And that's kind of what I want to bring back with the Kim Project, right? The Kim Project uses connection, energy, and movement to create a show with playfulness, right? It's meant to be playful. Hence why we have these kids on our logo, right? Playing around, exploring, understanding what connection, energy, and movement is, and what Kim is, right? My grandpa, Kim Brewster, right? He started a children's theater program at Utah Valley University back when it was UVSC, which is Utah Valley Science College.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot longer name.
That was like my aunt was 5.
So is
When-
this like 80s, 70s?
yeah,
or
this is about
something?
80s.
Wow.
And so it's about 40 years old, right?
That's awesome.
And now it's called the Thai Center. It wasn't originally called the Thai Center. It was renamed by one of the sponsors, which is Thai Norda. She passed away a couple years ago, right before the Norda Center was finished being built,
Oh,
right?
interesting.
And Thai Norda, like, she loved children's theater. She thought it would benefit so much people that they're like, okay, we have to do the Thai Center for her, right? And she really made it so that my grandpa's creation and dream continued, which I wanted to thank her for that, right? Thank the Nordas for continuing that dream, and it still goes to this day, right? They do touring shows. The last show I did at UVU was actually one of the Thai Center's touring shows, and we toured to 13 different schools.
Wow.
And so there's 2 different types of children's theater, right? There's children acting out theater, and then there are adults acting out theater for children, right? And so that's what the Thai Center really does, is it mainly does the adults acting out theater for children. And so we went to 13 schools. I was the assistant director and stage manager. That was a hard show. It was so good. But we had to recast it 3 times,
Wow.
like in the first 3 weeks.
Why is that?
So it was, so with how theater is going right now, you have to be very cultural appropriate, right?
Oh,
And it is
interesting.
a show written by a Guatemalan man,
Okay.
who is telling a story of a boy whose grandma grew up in Guatemala during the 60s, where all the wars were happening there, right? Where like the comandantes took over Guatemala, and a lot of refugees came to the United States. That happened the 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? And so and it's telling about that story and the story of loss, and it's called Two Donuts, and it's a great show. It's one of my favorite shows, but we had to recast Abuelita, or Abuela, 3 different times, because so we got someone who was Hispanic, who looked Hispanic, but she could not do the words. She didn't feel like she could speak Spanish properly enough. Like, she could speak it pretty well, so we're like pretty confident, like, it'll come in time, right? But she just didn't feel confident, so she dropped. And then we're like, okay. Then we had this other one who is a native Spanish speaker, and that was her first language, right? But she was taking 18 credits already.
Ooh.
And so adding this would get it to 21, and you can't have anything more than 20, right? And so she had to drop, and we're like, what are we gonna do? So we, instead of going with students, we went out and reached out, and we found these 2 amazing women who did it, right? And I had so much fun with them. They're great. And one sadly was going through a really hard time, and she had to drop the show our day before opening.
Oh man.
Luckily, we had a swing, And she was awesome, and she memorized the whole show in 3 hours.
Holy crap.
Like not 3 hours, but pretty much 3 hours of work is what she did
Insane.
before opening night. And she did phenomenal, right?
Wow.
And so we hit a lot of rough, bumpy things with that show, but because of the awesomeness of children's theater, of the show must go on, because we must inspire these children to deal with loss and deal with these troubling times, right? We have to pretty much give them that, right? And that's what motivated a lot of the cast, and a lot of stuff happened with the cast, that like a lot of emotional things, and but it made us stronger, right? And that's what I love about children's theater, is that by connecting with the kids, by helping them understand the emotions of the show and the meaning of the show, you can truly change their lives, because they're in this developmental area of their life, and you can teach them coping skills through plays. You can teach them how to love other people that are not like them through plays. You can help them truly become better people by just watching a show, right? And that's what I love about children's theater, is because it's in that developmental time, your brain flexes to what you take in, right? Children are sponges. They'll take in whatever you give them, including bad things, right? If you give them a bunch of bad stuff, they're going to turn out bad, right? And so that's one thing with the Kim Project that I want to help out with. I want to give them good coping mechanisms, good things, because we are in a pandemic of mental health.
Yeah.
Right? Depression, all-time high. Anxiety, all-time high. Suicide rate, all-time high, including those that are minors.
Yep.
And it is because of bullying and because of actions of adults that are not properly trained or no coping mechanisms to treat their children right, or treat people around them right. And it's causing these rifts to happen that cause suicide. And with the Kim Project, I want to change how children's theater is seen, right? That it is just kids on a stage that are not talented, right? That are just there to say, "Hi, Mom," right? "Look what I'm doing," right? To truly show their talents and show that they can connect with one another, that they can know and feel energy that will benefit them for the rest of their life. And that they can move forward with their lives knowing that they are valued and that they can do anything they set their mind to, right? That's why we focus on connection, energy, and movement. Because if you didn't have connection in your life, would you have anything? Truly, no. And so that, and same thing with energy and movement. Right? If you don't move, you can't get anywhere.
Yep.
And so I love that these basics of theater can truly translate to life and change the lives of so many people.
I feel like I'm at church right now.
I'm sorry, I'm preaching to the choir.
We're having like a whole thing going on right now. We're like lost in the sauce today.
This was beautifully said, and I have nothing to say because I feel like I'm interrupting a preacher.
Yeah, dude, I was like listening. I was like, dang, dude, he's going all in.
I'm pretty like set on this. You know, that's why the Kim Project's gonna happen.
That's
no
good.
Matter what, right? Please register. Right? We're going up. I
Help
think
your kids.
It's June 24th to July 31st. I could be wrong. I'm gonna get the dates up in this video, right? So that you know exactly. Boop.
Right above Brandon's hands.
And please come, right? Please register.
Support your local children.
Yeah, because truly, this may seem like like a big cost, but it's something that I feel is so important that it has value, right? And you should pay for something that's going to benefit you for the rest of your life, right? And that's how I feel the Kim Project is. It's benefited me my whole life, right? I've learned these things throughout my life, and that's why I'm giving it back, right? It's kind of like with Stephen Covey and the 7 habits of successful people. He learned that throughout his life, and now it is one of the most like read books about like changing your life and adapting your life, and like I've read that and gone through the leadership training for that. It was a cool leadership training, because it just like helped benefit your life, right? And one of the things that I want with the Kim Project is I want it to benefit children even after they're no longer children, right? I want them to have these coping mechanisms of, okay, this connection with my boss is not going well right now. How can I make the connection better? Or how can I connect to something else that will benefit me at this time? Because I was going to say this during our addiction recovery video, but addiction is the absence of connection, and connection is the healing that everyone needs.
Oh, interesting.
And so truly the more you connect with something, the less loss you will ever be, right? And so connection's always the first step. And so I really wanted, that's why it's the first thing in the Kim Project, because if you don't have connection, you can't truly know what energy is in the room. You can guess it, right?
Yeah.
You can kind of feel it, but yeah, but you can't go forward without that connection, right? And movement, it's not designated, it's not seen as purposeful if it doesn't have a connection connected to it, right? Or an energy that is also connected to it. Yeah, it's this, right?
Yeah.
Because let's say you're just moving aimlessly in a room, right? No one's going to stop and watch that. Maybe they will for like a little bit, but then they'll get bored, right? But if you're walking from one point to another with the connection, the energy, and the movement, bam, you are enthralled.
Kind of like a marching band almost.
Yeah.
Like if you were to watch a marching band just go around in circles, like no one's gonna really be interested in that after a while. But if you see them like go from point A to point B, and they're like, one thing I've noticed with marching bands, especially on like football fields, is they do those big field shows, and everyone has a point to get to, and they all have to be there like at a certain time during a certain song, and they have to have a certain reason to be at that point. And that's kind of what it reminded me of when you were just saying that, is like none of the band members are just going to random spots. Like everyone has a designated spot to go to, but they're going there for a reason and with energy. You know what I mean? And they're using that energy to put forward into their performance to actually give this amazing performance. And that's kind of reminds me of is like field performances on a football field during like halftime or something like that.
Yeah.
And everyone's enthralled by it because it looks so cool.
Yeah, and what's also cool is that with that, right, with marching band and all these other things, it's truly, you have to have that motivation, as you were talking about, to change things, right? Without that energy behind it, without that motivation to do it, right, there's nothing, right? Velocity, right, if you take away the motion or the movement of it, it's nothing. Right? The reason equals the end. Right? And that's what I think is cool. I love children's theater. I could talk about this for hours. But yeah, any other things that you guys have noticed, like that, like children's theater or just like um, entertainment in general would need from the Kim Project, right? Like that you've
I mean,
noticed.
The Kim Project is far beyond just entertainment because
Mhm.
it's going into children's education.
Yeah.
Like it's a theater program, but it really is educational in the way that you can use the connection, energy, and movement in everyday life. Like you
Yep.
said, it was navigating the connections you have with your friends or your future employers, people at school, the energy to be able to match in the room, and like those type of things. Like they're not just something that you won't use again once you're off stage. It's
Mhm.
something that's going to stay with you in your social life
Yep.
as far as you go.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
one thing that I know is like I've been to Tuacahn a bunch. You know, I've seen their shows, I've seen their musicals and everything. It's phenomenal to go watch it. But one thing that I know is like a lot of those kids that are part of their shows, they're incredibly talented kids. But something like with like the Kim Project would be a huge step forward in those kids' lives, especially those ones that really want to make that either a career or just something that they can do on the side, especially when going into like a Tuacahn show or going to Vegas or even Broadway. Like having the experience and the knowledge and the education with that kind of a head start would be a huge step forward for kids that want to be part of those shows, even just as kids. I mean, even as adults later on in life, like it'll give them a huge step forward.
Yeah. Well, and it makes me think of like gymnastic and dance,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
right? You have to start as a really young kid to be able to get to the
Yep.
pros,
Yep.
Yeah.
right? Because if you don't, you're never going to make it.
Yep.
Theater is a little different.
Yeah.
It's a lot different with that. But the thing is, I think people will become better people
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
if they start young,
Yep.
right?
And it teaches you confidence too in your life too, because a lot of people who try to get into stuff like that later in their life and they're not that confident, they're not going to make it very far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have that confidence within you as well, and that's something that the Kim Project could offer is building that confidence as a young child.
Yeah. And I think it'd help even people that like introverted people, right? The reason I'm not saying that they're introverted or that they don't try to like achieve a lot of things is that they believe they can't,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can still be introverted and be the most confident person
Yeah.
like in the room, right? And that's what I think a lot of people are missing, that
Mhm.
oh, I'm not extroverted so I can't do theater. I'm not extroverted so I can't get that award-winning job, right? Or that like trophy job,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
But it's all about that confidence. It's all about connecting and making sure that you can get there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And having that dream and that energy to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Sweet. Well, thanks for talking about this with me, guys.
That was pretty much all you do.
Yeah, it was.
Thanks for talking about it, Braxton. Thanks for talking to us about it.
Yeah. This was a preaching hour with Braxton. um no, I really loved the Kim Project. Please register for it. It will be up June 24th to July 31st. Those 6 weeks, we'll be doing a showcase, and we'll be using Captain Talltail and how he became so tall.
Mhm.
And we'll be turning those into scripts and acting them out. And you will be able to have all aspects of theater. You'll be able to act, direct, produce, like do all these things, right? And be able to learn it through connection, energy, and movement. I'm excited just talking about it, right? So please register. I could talk about it for days, but the more that you actually go out and come and register for it and sign up, the more you're gonna get out of it.
Mhm.
So please sign up. Go to whattheblank.org and go to the sign up page and check us out there. This was How the
A
Children's Theater. And if you want to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Spotify.
Please go there and check us out.
Yeah.
So.
And check us out on whattheblank.org. Bye.
Bye.